We will try to not talk about pornography as something good or bad, but it's instead we'll try to understand how pornography functions today in the digital environment, and how it can shape young people's sexual imagination. So the goals of today's class are to understand pornography's role in shaping sexual and relational imaginaries, recognize the psychological and social impacts of early exposure, distinguish between mainstream ethical and feminist pornography, gain language and tools to discuss porn with adolescents non-judgmentally, and to promote a culture of consent, respect, and digital awareness, as happened last time, and also in the previous part, because we had the first part around sex education. This part is more about safe digital presence, digital literacy. We will have the first part, which is a bit more around the educational perspective of the topic, and the second part, it's legal, because we have today our lawyer Camilla. So that's good. Today pornography is digital, mainly, not exclusively, but that makes it instant and free. And the risk is that, what is happening, together with the lack of complete and reliable sex education, is that this tool become the main source of the information. But before going on, maybe we can brainstorm a bit. So if you'd like to share just one word in chat, or a sentence, or open the voice, however you prefer, to say what comes to your mind when we talk about pornography. Fair enough. Yeah, so for those who doesn't know, like, if any, Pornhub is like a very famous streaming platform for yeah, porn. And then I'm gonna read out loud for everyone. So the first answer was Pornhub. Then we have form of expression. At present, probably the word is entertainment. We have curiosity. Male point of view. Sorry, I'm closing the chat now, so I'm not gonna be able to read anything. Maybe Camilla, if they write something else, you can let me know. But yeah, so it was interesting, like quite shameful words come first. Um, so what is pornography? It's visual, textual, or auditory material intended to arouse sexual excitement. So we have different forms. We listed some here. We have mainstream porn, like what's the most accessible one, which we can find, for instance, on platforms like the one mentioned in the chat. Amateur, which is not happening in a set. We can have ethical and feminist porn, which is filmed with different values and awareness. We can have educational content. Some platforms, even some mainstream platforms, offers educational video showing stuff. But they don't differ just in forms; they differ also in the media that is vehiculating the content. Probably we all know that pornography was born with movies in the cinemas, but then we have magazines as well. We have books. We have podcasts. I don't know if you had the chance to crossroad with podcasts, but it's quite interesting, and then it's quite interesting also to have the chance to pick the what suits best our curiosity and our self-expression, which were words that came up in the chat. But with the digital revolution, so like we named the different media, different forms. With the digital revolution, we can say that the main source of porn is online, and is through videos, and this is because it's the easiest to access to through smartphones and social media. Research say that the first exposure is around 9 to 12 years, even though I mean, then of course, like your personal experiences can be highly biased. But if I think about my first exposure to pornography was same age, because I remember that at school I was in primary school, and kids started to bring magazines that they were finding at home. So even if it wasn't digital content, that for sure. So like really not trying to simplify anything. For sure, said it's way easier to be exposed even accidentally. We know, like we all know, like pop-ups, links, and of course friends. But why do we talk about it? Why is it important to bring up the conversation? Because the problem is not that pornography is bad itself, is harmful, is harmful or brings risk by itself, by default, but it's in the context where it's used. The thing is, if we have pornography just, and this is the only source of information that a person, especially a young person, can have access to, then the information risks to be highly distorted. But if we can offer a whole system of critical thinking around it, then it can just provide all the. This is a big shortcut, but what we want to say here is that it can bring potentially all the good aspects if if there is like reliable sex education around it, just by itself, and not having other sources or other spaces to discuss about it, then it can shape and be the only voice that can shape elements such as the body, self-image, desire, gender roles, power, consent, fantasies, expectations. So what we want to say is it's important to create other other ways to build meaning around those aspects. Yeah, so like actually already anticipated this. Pornography is not explicitly saying this is how sex should be, but it's without comprehensive sex education and through repetition that it can communicate messages. And indeed, if this is the only message, then we believe, or we let young people to believe that this is the only truth and this is the reality. Stuff such as sex is performance, not connection. Pleasure is one-sided and mostly male. Consent is silent or implied. Real bodies look like porn bodies, or like everyone always wants sex. Women exist for male pleasure. Penetration is the goal of every encounter. Violence is sexy, and consent kills desire, and so on. I mean, you might have some other myths and messages that you believe pornography is bringing up. Some impacts of pornography on people, we said already, like not by default, but without any other source of information and discussion. On the individual level, they might generate unrealistic expectations, performance anxiety, emotional detachment from intimacy, desensitization, and so on. And from a relational impact, it can contribute to distorted ideas of consent and reciprocity, reduced empathy and communication, difficulty building intimacy, objectification of partners. So some of this stuff you were mentioning when talking about the messages carried by porn in the activity. And then like we have these theories carried on by like strong voices against the usage of porn, saying that porn is addictive because some people use porn to regulate emotions, loneliness, or stress. Actually, no research is showing that this is true, that porn can be addictive, but definitely can become maladaptive coping strategy when it replaces connection or communication. Like it's the work of this sexual therapist. I'm gonna share with you his account. That is trying to do dissemination, talking about this, talking about the fact that the problem, like it's not that if you remove porn, you solved maladaptive coping strategy, like you still have the problem because you didn't you haven't gone to the root. So yeah, we recommend you to take a look because it's an interesting counter voice to the main narrative. Voila. I leave the floor to Camilla.
So if we want to talk about ethical and feminist porn, we shall start from Eric Last. One of the most example of ethical pornography, in fact, is the work of Erika Lust. Erika is a Swedish director that, when she was 27 years old, moved in Spain, and during her study that were very different about from sexuality and information, because she studied political science, started working in cinema and information. Her aim was to let the women express their sexuality through pornography without stereotypes and without links. So she was one of the first looking to pornography about a role of education. And we must, when we talk about ethical porn, we must start from Erika's work. Maybe first we look the videos and then talk about it. What do you think, Rachele?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hola, soy Erika Luz, directora de cine adulto independiente, y estamos aquí en Madrid para un evento y una celebración de mis 20 años de carrera.
Buenas noches a todos, todas, todes. Bienvenidos a la Sala X, bienvenidos a esta celebración de Erika Lust, a esta celebración de la inteligencia y del talento de una mujer que ha revolucionado el cine porno.
Mi porno es para todos, todas. Es para la gente que quieren explorar su deseo y su sexualidad en un contexto seguro, donde no sienten que van a ser ofendidos o maltratados o tratados con agresión hacia la mujer. Es para la gente que quiere explorar un placer compartido por todos que están en ese acto sexual juntos.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, my pizza. How much was it?
$10.
So, just a moment. Let me get the money. Come in. I'm sorry. He is not a normal pizza guy. Oh my God. He is gorgeous.
La Erika que hizo The Good Girl, una chica sueca que había venido a España, que tenía 27 años, que había sido estudiante de ciencias políticas y no había encontrado su camino, y por varios motivos había acabado en el sector audiovisual. Empecé como runner, asistente de producción, production manager, location manager. Trabajé como freelance durante muchos años en la industria, y a la misma vez me había apuntado a Film School para aprender sobre cine, cómo trabajar con cámaras y actores y la metodología detrás, y tuve una oportunidad de hacer un cortometraje, y ahí creé un poco esta idea de The Good Girl, que era coger un cliché del porno que todos conocemos, el chico de la pizza, pero intentar darle la vuelta y hacer esa historia desde la perspectiva de la mujer.
Oh God, the bride and groom are here. Run, and don't stop taking pictures.
Pero después, si lo comparas con Erika ahora, 20 años después, que ha podido hacer un proyecto como The Wedding, que era mi último como gran estreno, que es una comedia pansexual divertida, con ritmo y con mucho trabajo, que lo filmamos con un crew de 40 personas, directoras en todos los diferentes departamentos, directoras de fotografía, de arte. A nivel técnico hay muchas cosas que han cambiado. A nivel de confianza en mí misma. Hay muchas cosas que han cambiado. Yo creo que yo cuando empecé me sentía muy insegura.
This is a talk more about your personal sex boundaries, how you feel, and if there's anything in particular that you would like them to know.
Veo que una de las dudas que la gente tiene cuando piensan en pornografía es justo el trato de los actores. Ha sido justo cómo se comunica, y entonces para mí es muy importante poder mostrar al mundo cómo hacemos estas charlas de sexo que tenemos antes de un rodaje para que nuestras audiencias puedan ver la profundidad de las charlas, dónde entramos, sobre qué hablamos, y para que vean que no hablamos solo sobre lo que los actores no quieren hacer, sino también hablamos mucho sobre qué quieren hacer.
Gracias, Erika. Muchísimas gracias.
Los que ganan el dinero grande en esta industria siguen siendo los hombres, son los propietarios de las empresas, son los hombres tech que entraron en esta industria en un momento y poco a poco empezaron a transformar la industria. ¿Y en qué forma lo están haciendo? Pues en forma de pornografía online, de tube sites, donde ya no les importa tanto las películas o las personas o representar la sexualidad de una manera amplia y diversa y respetuosa, sino lo que les interesa es traer tráfico. Cuando hablamos de porno ético y porno feminista, creo que para mucha gente es confuso, que no entienden exactamente qué es, porque de alguna manera creen que el porno es antiético y machista y no entienden cómo puede ser diferente. Pero yo creo que porno es solo porno, es sexo explícito y tú lo puedes hacer con tus valores. Cuando hablamos de porno ético, a lo que nos estamos refiriendo es un porno que respeta a los trabajadores. Estamos pensando en las condiciones del trabajo, que todo sea claro, bien comunicado, que los actores tengan información correcta para tomar sus decisiones, que hayamos tenido todas las charlas sobre su seguridad, lo que le gusta, lo que no le gusta, que trabajamos activamente para tener nuestros sets as safe as possible. Porno y adolescencia, la bomba. Los adolescentes, creo yo, tienen derecho de buscar inspiración y ideas de su sexualidad. Los dos problemas graves que tenemos es la falta de educación y el acceso ilimitado sin reflexión. La pornografía no es solo pornografía, es realmente un discurso que nos habla de la sexualidad, pero también de la masculinidad y de la feminidad. El sexo es complicado, el sexo es algo que tarda para aprender a conocer a tu propio cuerpo y tarda en conectar con otras personas sexualmente.
I really want to start talking about ethical and feminist porn from this video. So let Erika Last to talking about her work, because I think that there are no better words than what she said. We used to think about pornography as something stereotyped, as something that talk about thank you, Arkele. Arkele has just shared the YouTube link on the chat. So we used to talk about for pornography with about something that has perfect bodies, as perfect pleasure and something that is extreme. Extreme pleasure, extreme bodies, extreme performance. Ethical and feminist porn, in fact, talking about a sex there is consensual, that is realistic, and think about pornography with about a vehicle that can talk about real sex. This is the point. The difference between something that is represented in a way that is extreme, that is not realistic, and something that is realistic. And with the term realistic, we can talk about the bodies, with about the representation, also about what we think of the human body, the girl bodies. There are a lot of themes very linked about ethical and feminist porn that that take us talking about realistic and not realistic narration. Can you go on, Rachele? So here we put in two different columns what we see in mainstream porn and what we see in ethical and feminist porn. One of the most theme is the consent in ethical porn. Later in the legal part, we talk a lot about consent in pornography. And it's important, this theme is very important, because talking about consent lets us to think about sex with about something that is normal, that is good. I think that mainstream porn with is very extreme representation let us thinking about sex, about something that we must hide. We must talk in very low voices. We must, because it's something that is not good. Ethical and feminist porn has another aim to talk also about how sex is natural and is something about and it's something that is part of our lives. Then we can talk about how these content are produced. Ethical and feminist porn also have the aim of the respect of the workers. So inclusive, transparent process, real kind of process, that these are also themes that are involved in ethical porn, which talk also about the part of production. It's not also the product, what we see, that is a product that talk about consent, talk about normal bodies, talk about normal representation, but also how we got it. Ethical and feminist porn is a way to change the sex narration, the pornography narration, and it's a way to educate people to a normal, to a free link with their proper bodies. Can you go on, Rachele? So as I said, now we start talking about a very legal part that it's something that made me more comfortable than other themes. I want a little presentation. I really want to be technical in this part because I think that is important to put some points when you talk about legal pornography. I will talk about regulation that in proper this morning is discussing in UA. So if you have some questions, if it's not clear, or if you need more explanation, please stop me, and I will be more clear or less technical. As I said in the previous pictures, when we think about pornography, our mind suddenly goes to something that is illegal, something that is made in a proper context, and something that must be hidden. What we don't know is, suddenly our mind goes to something that it's good or bad. Talking about pornography isn't talking about something that is good or bad, but we can talk about it with something is legal or not legal. This is important because move the focus from the judgments, good or bad, to an objective view, something that is legal or illegal. And I think that when you talk that with someone that is involved in pornography or in his process, it's very important to move from the judgment to something that is from the judgment to an objective perspective. So to talk about pornography in legal terms and to make clear some areas that are full of fake news and fake information, we can put 3 points of discussion: consent, sharing, and age of people. Moving from these 3 points, we can analyze how pornography is legal. The first big theme is the consent. We talk about ethical and feminist porn that considered consent as a non-optional element of pornography. We start from this point, but we must know that when we talk about consent in pornography, we talk about 3 different ways. Consent about the sexual act represented in the content, consent about recording the act, and consent about sharing it. So consent is not only consensual act, and then we can talk about the very violent content that we can find on the web, but is a focus that divided in 3 parts. The sexual act must have the consent. If the content films a rape, a not consent act, the pornography isn't legal. The content is illegal. It's a crime, and we can't consider it a proper way to educate. About recording the act. When Rachele starts her to talk, she talk about amateur videos. Obviously, when we talk about consent, about recording, we don't talk about only amateur, because amateur videos must have the consent of both the parts that are involved in the content. If the consent fail in recording the act, pornography is illegal. And then, but we turn back on this theme later and proper in a next lesson, the consent about sharing the videos. We can make a content with our partner only to use in our only to use between us, and we don't want to share it. It's okay if this content is shared without the consent of one of the part of the content, isn't legal. So for be legal, pornography about the consent must have 3 points: consent about the act, consent about recording, make the act or making the content, and consent about sharing it. If one of these consent fail, pornography is illegal. Someone would say something about it? So please go on, Rachele. Okay, yes, I would I go a bit further on this slide. Then the second point is sharing. As I said, sharing pornography is legal when there is the consent of the people represented in the content. So, for example, I film myself in a sexual act alone and then share it with you. This is legal, but if you share that content with another people without my consent, it becomes illegal. Consent on the sharing must not fail during all the sharing. As I said, sharing can be volunteer and free, but also paid. And I would like to talk about this theme because there are something interesting to talking about how laws regulate the sharing of paid content. Also, because you have to know that also paying content must be must be the consent to the sharing to be legal. Spreading content without consent is a crime, but we talk properly about it next time. Now I would like to focus on the theme of paid sharing. There are a lot of I think that I talk better in the next slide. Because also sharing pornography is changed. Some years ago, you can find pornography on webs, on free sites, and sharing were uncontrolled. Now we have some platforms and social networks dedicated to sharing private contents. I think that you know what I'm talking about. There are platforms where I can open a profile, sharing some content that are free for everyone, and some contents that you have to pay to see it. It is interesting to note that get from content from these creators doesn't allow sharing, especially about private videos or images that are by the user. Keep them private and doesn't allow to spread them. Sharing the images or the video that I buy, that were private and I paid to get them, doesn't allow me sharing it. There are some statements from Italian court that are very interested about this. In the summer of 2025, said that sharing images that have been downloaded from these platforms is illegal pornography, and buying private content and then share them is a proper crime that in Italy is called, I hate this name, but so it is, revenge porn. And it is that it are statements that are very important because say to us something. These statements said that pornography isn't illegal. If I want to film myself and share my content or sell this content, it's okay, it's legal. What is illegal is to share it without my consent. I said it is important because it's a very big cultural changement to put the focus on who share the content without consent and not on the people who made the content, but also to blame people who share it without consent. And it's also important because recognize that pornography is legal. It's not something you have to blame or or must be hidden. If you want, I don't sign on these slides, and my fault, this statement. But if you want, I'll put you on the chat, or I'll write them down on the mail that we sent at the end of the lesson. Please go on. If you don't have nothing, if you don't have anything to add, I'll go on. Then the third point is the age. Age is not a simple point to talk about pornography because it involves different things. It involves obviously the age of the people who make the content, but also of the people who see the content. In almost all Europe, in fact, under 18 years people can be represented in pornography. Under 18 years people who are represented in pornography is a crime that is called pedopornography. But you have to know that in almost all Europe, they can't have access, they also can't have access to it. It means that if you show a teenager pornography content, you may be punished as you have filmed them. I think that we must talk about it because Europe treat as the same way 17 years people and 7 years people, and I think it's a bit different. I think that a serious approach to the theme, legally talking, is would be to distinguish from a kid until maybe 12, 13 years old, and a teenager. We can't treat them at the same way. For example, I would like to talk about something that happened to me. I think 3 or 5 years ago. I treat a case of a local disco here in near Savona that have as a special guest during a Saturday night a porno star. I don't remember who, sorry, but I don't remember the name. During the night, the event, come the police who made a control, identified some of the people who are standing at the event. Some of the people were less than 18 years old, and the owner of the disco has been fined for this crime, has been fined because he let under 18 people to see and to take part at a show made by an actress of porn. I think this we are now, the trial is now at the ended at the end, but this is an extreme reaction. But in theory, it's correct because the actress leave her clothes, and for the norm that we have in Italy, this is the same thing to let an under 18 people, an under 18 guys have access to pornography. So we see that we must put our hands on the norms that regulate the access of pornography, because a trial like this is, I think, unreal, and the consequences are very hard, because we talk about 8 years. Okay, I just finished. I think that we are talking about 8 years of jail. They are not it's not it's not a joke, because with an 18 pain, we can't access to all the benefits. Well, yes, Rachele?
No, before changing the topic, I was curious about, but what was the show about? I mean, was she just a guest? Because I've been to I've been to a club where Rocco Siffredi was a guest. He was just sitting at the on the stage.
And this is the focus of the trial. Thank you for the question, because this is the focus on the trial. The actress go staring in topless and in a very strict underwear, move moves, have sexual movements, but obviously doesn't do sexual act on staring. In fact, now we are discussing about it. And I link to the question that Cecilia made on the chat. Is it considered the same if I'm topless at the beach? The different, I think, is the sexual values that I do at the act. In this trial, we try to, as evidence in the discovery, we try to prove that the fact that it was a porno actress, that it was almost naked, isn't the same of a sexual act in front of people under 18 years old. Well, I think that the last meeting will be, thank you, Cecilia, will be in 15 days. So maybe for the next lesson, I managed to talk about how this story is finished. But I think that I will talk about you about this what's happened to me, and I apologize because when I made the slides, I don't think about it. I think about talking to you about this night when I was awake in the middle of the night, and I don't edit it on the slide, but I think that it gives us a clear image of what the mainstream thinking about porn is. And thank you, Rachele, for your appointing to talking about Rocco Siffredi that have guests, because I think that is also a different way to consider male and female bodies involved in this theme. Because I think that for example, so I go a little bit out of argument. There is a vocalist that is a male that works in Mykonos, but also has some steering also in Italy, that steering with a very, very, very strict underwear. And you can see all. I think that nobody think that it is improper or pornography. In fact, that this let us think about how male and female bodies are different considered. So I talk about age of people also because from a few years we starting discussing about CSAM, also known as child control, a proper law to contrast pedopornography or exposition of sexual content to under 18. The first part of this discussing wants to state member and platforms to adopt rules to identify the users of the content. Can you go on, Rachele? Okay. In this slide, I resume what is CSAM, because first, its aim is to strengthen the fight against online child pornography and grooming around a uniform regulation framework. Then the proposal impose scanning system on users' devices. For example, the Italian Some a month ago, in Italy, we talk about use the speed, the digital identity to go on porno platforms. Then put obligation for platforms to identify their users, and but now we don't have a final regulation. Why? Because the debate is still ongoing, and we have two important points. First, the difference between member states that makes it very difficult to have one regulation about exam, and then the privacy, because most of state members said that to scan users doesn't protect their privacy. Personally, I think that isn't a proper point, because we had to look to the aim to this regulation is to contrast that child have an unregulated access or are involved in not proper content. And I think that this aim is more important than the privacy. You know, when laws are made, there is a valuation of their interests involved. And we say that some interests are less important than the others. For me, the protection of child, of kids, also who takes part to this content, and also who are exposed to this content, are more important than the privacy of the users. If you want to add something about this, the thinking, please let free to do it. Oh, I see, sorry, on the slide, I see until April 2056, no, there are 5 I will correct this. So now we have temporary rules that put a voluntary serving of the platforms. So platforms can scan their user or they cannot. This regulation finished on the 3rd of April, on Friday. And now we don't know what will happen on the 4th of April, on Saturday. So there will be voluntary serving. We can close the exam regulation as it is starting in the starting form. We don't know. There is a discussion put on the 2nd of April, and so I managed for the next lesson to talk you what will happen about the chat control. Please go on, okay?
A lot of hype for the next class.
Yes,
things.
But in fact, I'm very happy that we put this lesson on this date, because the discussion is very high, and we can assist of I think an historical changing. I'm very critical about the position of the state members about this theme, because I really don't understand how you can put the child pornography, the fight against child pornography and grooming under the protection of the privacy of the user. for me is unbelievable. Okay, sorry, we have 2 questions on the chat. Well, one of the member states that is most resistant is Germany. And to me, it was a surprise. And unbelievable, one of the most state member that is involved to introduce this regulation is Italy. Italy proposed to use ID for have access to online platform. So we talk about how it works, but it's a way to control. Are there a lot of information surveillance that combined with sure, one difficult, as I said, is to fix a UA regulation with the difference between state members. For example, Spain has a very strictly regulation about pedopornography. France is a bit also France is a bit lower. So this differences has an important role about the changements in scam. This is another problem, the use of AI. So as you see, I noticed that there are a lot of problems, and I think that a serious regulation must consider that the way of communication and the webs, the tools that we have changes every day. For example, I talk about when I was at the university. I get my degree on 2011, and we studied about pedopornography. A theme that was very hype was the morphing. Morphing is to use someone's face and put it on other bodies. So there was a lot of statement about morphing and pedopornography. For example, using an image of a child and put it on an adult body in a movie is also considered pedopornography. This is it's not now we don't talk more about morphing, because the simple use of AI the simple use of AI go on about morphing. If you see a morphing video now, you can immediately recognize it. AI is a tool that, if isn't used properly, can be very dangerous. Is private concern between with the minimum concern? Okay, this thank you, Ricardo, for the questions. Really, I'm talking about it in a few minutes, but I will answer you. There are a lot of statements in Italy that consider the age of the people who take part in sharing private videos or sexting as pedopornography. So, in fact, there are there are a big discussion in statements because some courts say that we must consider the age of the teenagers involved. 17, as I said before, 17 years old, it's not the same of an 11 years old. And also the age of the other people are very strict different of ages. For example, 16 and 20 years older is not the same as an 11 years older and 22 years older. So some courts ask to be more practical and to analyze the facts. But I must say that the measure, and that I agree, because I think that we must, if we want to talk seriously about sex to teenagers, we can't blame their approach. We have to educate, as we said in this morning, and not to blame. Sorry, I go on because, as you said, when we talk about statements and crime, I used to go on other arguments. Because I would like to to do the activity. This is a summary of how it rules now in Europe. You say, as on the 3rd of April, this derogation will finish, but last week the Parliament reject another extension and say to the member states, you have to reach some regulation. No more extension. Oh, please, Rachele, go on. Okay, and why Europe reject another extension? Because basically voluntary serving doesn't work. Because it's because on the major platform you can find non-consensual material, rapes, child abuse, and also you can get them if you aren't older than 18 years old. So Europe said that we must have a proper regulation. Voluntary serving doesn't work. Please go on. Sorry, we have spent a little bit of time talking about examples, but I think it has been also interesting. Why checking ages is so difficult? Because, as I said, it's not it's not longer sufficient flag. I'm old. I'm over than 18 years old. But it's not the only problem, because in fact, the sexual content or the pornography content are shared of a lot of platforms, channels, and social networks that aren't be under control. For example, Telegram, Viber, where these rules can be applied. This is why XAM is so important. We must have a regulation which is be serious and which is considered and involves all the channel of sharing. Please go on. Okay, and then is the last slide before the activity, because what can a youth worker do? As we said during this morning, our aim is not to demonize pornography. We think that a skilled youth worker can do a good job talking about risks and legal terms. This is why I divided the point in 3 themes: consent, sharing, and age. You can show limits of the consent and sharing, talking about age and violence, and take teenagers to use responsibility to use pornography in a way that is responsible. So I think that a youth worker can talk and put a critical sense in teenagers.